All right, going live in three, two, one. Well, this is the Working Title Experience, episode number 14. And for this evening's show, I have a writer and a podcaster on. Her name is Shelby. I'm going to bring her on. How are you doing, Shelby?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So tell us about yourself. What do you do? What do you like to write?
So I like to write a lot of not or fiction. I'm currently writing like a fantasy book, which is a little different for me. I don't typically write fantasy. I write like realistic fiction or a bunch of short stories. So it's a different beast. But yeah, I just write a lot of fiction for fun. For work, I freelance for a lot of like magazines and stuff, or I used to. I kind of paused it for my novel, but I would write for magazines and newspapers and stuff.
Wow, that's interesting. I myself am I've always wanted to be a writer of sorts. I actually created a story that I never finished. Has a couple of chapters, but is as far as actually going professional, is that something you'd actually like to ever do?
Yeah, I would actually really like to write full time. I mean, in a dream world where all the possibilities or everything I wanted came true, I would just be like a full time writer for like novels and fantasy and fiction. That's what I want to do. I could see myself like writing nonfiction and everything, but writing is just like it's a hard world to break into. So in
Hmm.
a dream world, that would what I would want to be. A lot of authors have to like get second jobs as like professors and stuff, which is something that's super interesting. I think like teaching writing would be super cool. So
I've heard about people self-publishing by like going to Amazon and doing things like that. Just have you ever
oh
heard?
yeah,
Heard
I think that's super cool. I think that's like a double-edged sword, I will say. I think it's super cool and like people can do it and like can create amazing books. Like there's this lady, I can't remember her name. It's like I think it's a Rupi. She like wrote a book of poems and like published it on Amazon, and it's a really good book. It got super popular, and she was a really good writer, so it like totally deserved to get read by so many people because it was so interesting. But then there are people that probably need to like hone their skill of writing before they like actually publish something. So like I said, it's a double-edged sword. Um,
Gotcha.
anyone can publish on Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of figured that. I'm sure there's probably some some regulations. They don't want certain things being published, of course. I would assume, but
Mhm.
I would assume save the cost of having to go to a publisher or the being rejected. I assume. Have you ever tried to go? I'm just curious. Have you ever tried to go into an actual publisher for anything?
So I have a short story published with like a publishing company. It's a small publishing company based out of Texas. It's called Madville Publishing, and it was like in an anthology or like a collection of short stories. And so the for my short story, the process was like pretty painless. It just I sent it into this like contest they were having, got accepted. But if you went to like a big publisher and wanted to like publish a book, it would be like a lot more tedious, take like several months, if not years. Whereas Amazon's like I would say like it's not easy because you still have to create your book cover and edit it yourself. It's like you're working for yourself and it's a one man show. But I guess it saves your self esteem a little bit when you don't get rejected by a lot of publishers.
Yeah, I've seen people, not to downplay the using Amazon, but I have seen people that are on like doing radio shows that have been in radio for a long time. Oh, come on, and say I'm releasing a book, and it's like, oh, that's cool. And then they say they release it on Amazon, and my first thought is, well, okay, but anyone can do Amazon. That's my opinion. So I mean, based on what I mean, not to downplay using Amazon, but that's what it kind of seems like. It's like, oh well, anyone could do that. That's what would you say to somebody that said that to you?
I think I think I would be a little bit iffy about it, but I I truly believe that there are some like diamonds in the rough on Amazon. Like, yes, anyone can publish a book, but there are some truly good ones that get like pretty famous off Amazon. And I would just tell them like, well, I'm just gonna have to judge the book based off the book and not the fact that it's on Amazon. Because a lot of writers like self publishing, not just specifically on Amazon, is gaining like a lot of traction, a lot of like steam, I guess, for lack of better words, because it's easier for the, I guess not easier. You get more money from it. Like if you're going to like a publishing company, you're going to have to like not, you should never pay for your book to be published, but they like, when you get your royalties and stuff, they'll take money from that to pay for their marketing and pay for your agent and blah blah blah, all that. Whereas like Amazon and publishing companies, you get like all of it, but you are doing all of it. So a lot of publishing or a lot of authors are like really going into like indie publishing, and it's becoming really popular.
That's interesting. Now you said you do podcasts as well. What is that? What is that all about?
So I shockingly have a podcast related to books. It's a like a monthly book club type of thing. It's it's nothing popular. I wouldn't say it's like the best podcast ever. It's me and my friend read a book once a month, and we get together and discuss it. We try to make it like a super fun and like funny, where it's not just like you're in a class lecture listening to your teacher talk about a book. So we talk about, it's called Reading Too Much Into, and we just talk about the book we are obviously picked, the current books like we're reading for fun, TV shows, something that's happened with like our life. We want to make it more like inviting and friendly and for like hopeful and happy, so people enjoy listening. Yeah.
It's cool. What have you recently reviewed? Anything that people would recognize?
So we did an episode on The Vanishing Half, which is a super popular book, a really good book. That I can't remember what episode exactly it was, but that one I feel like a lot of people have read, so a lot of people would be able to read it. We did Mexican Gothic, which is another like it wasn't as popular as Vanishing Half, but it was like pretty popular, and it was a really, really interesting book. It was like a horror book, like a period piece kind of thriller, whereas The Vanishing Half was like just spanned through centuries, so it was like more realistic fiction, I guess, that spanned through fantasies about like race and everything. So we try to keep it, the books we pick, me and my friend, her name's Avery, we switch off between who picks what book each month, and so we have a lot of different options because she's really into like nonfiction pieces. And so one episode we did Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, which is another book on race. So it's a really good book. I think everyone should read it, but it was like a nonfiction book, so I know that's not everyone's like taste.
Gotcha. I'm not, I hate to admit, but I'm not really much of a. I have read 4 novels in my life. So,
Wow, which ones are they?
Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was the Blade Runner movie was based on that.
Okay.
Lord of the Flies.
Okay, I've read that one as well in like middle school or something. It was a long time ago. I was forced to read it.
Yeah, I wasn't forced to read. It was for me. It was for school as well, but I voluntarily chose that to read.
Okay.
I read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the original. Well,
Oh,
I guess it's the
yeah.
original.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I took a whole class on Frankenstein and Frankenstein adaptation, so I had to read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and just like a bunch of different versions of Frankenstein or things that were slightly Frankenstein. Like I remember one day we just watched an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where they like kill one of the boyfriends and like sew them back together type of thing.
One thing. Well, let me ask you this: in the book Frankenstein, that it's in the movies that have come out, they basically imply that he took a body and reanimated it. When I read the book, what I remember was he just created life. They didn't really explain how he created the monster.
Yeah, I don't remember it either. I feel like there was like lightning. I like want to say he like stole body parts, but I can't remember if that's like in the actual book. I think he like straight up created it. Like I don't even think there was lightning either. Now that I think about it, I really watched so many versions or read so many versions of like Frankenstein that they all get mixed up in my head. But the original Frankenstein by Shelley is like completely different than anything that we think of when we think of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, also, maybe you heard about this. It was written by her, but weren't there other people that actually contributed to it? Is that correct?
I don't know if other people like contributed to it, but her family is so interesting. like, and it's a lot of it is based off her family. Like I remember her. This was like 2019 that I took this class. So I could be getting some of this wrong. But her family was super interesting. It was during like the romanticism period, and like it was kind of like people were, for lack of better words, rebelling, I would say, against like more traditional standards. And like her mom passed away during childbirth, and then like there was like affairs, and she ran off. She was married, I think, and then ran off with her like dad's like like not secretary, apprentice, something like that. Her family had like a lot of like drama, and so a lot of it is based off her family and some of the stuff that happened there.
That I did not know that. Okay. When I read the book, unfortunately, all these books I've read, it's been a long time since I've read any of them, so I only remember bits and pieces, to be honest. So
Yeah, I mean, I read this in 2019, so I'm trying to like piece together, and I'm trying to piece together what's in my memory and like be specific, but also try not to be too specific because I could definitely get something wrong.
To add to my final book that I read, and I read this because I was a big fan of the movie The Time Machine, by H.G. Wells. That for me was one of the hardest reads out of anything I've ever read, because it was written in another country in an old style English, and it took me forever to just get through that. It's not, the terminology was different. It was just hard to try to figure out what was being conveyed because of the language itself.
Hmm.
Maybe it's just me or something. I don't know. Maybe because I don't read enough, but it really felt like the other books, especially the more modern ones, like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, that was more of an easy read, relatively.
Mm-hmm.
This was it was written in an older style English, and like I said, from another country. So I just had a hard time getting through it, but it was still interesting. The movie that I'm talking about was George Powell's 1960 The Time Machine. And I've been, ever since I've been a child, it was one of my favorite movies. So I got so much into it, I actually decided to read the novel it was based on. So,
Like in your free time as a kid?
yeah, well, this was more of my teenage years. But
Okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
still impressive, because I feel like if it's a book written in like an old English in another country, it's immediately I have no interest in it, and that's because I had to read like Great Expectations, and I just didn't understand it because it wasn't an old English. So props to you.
I kind of cheated towards after a while. What I did is I got the audiobook version of it, and I actually let someone read it to me, so it helped. So
Yeah.
that way I didn't have to try to sit there and read it a couple of times over and over again. So.
Oh yeah. I think people always ask me if audiobooks are like cheating or if it's really reading, and I consider it reading. I guess, I mean, you're not technically in the sense of reading, but I mean, you could probably say the same thing about like TV. If you're watching Netflix or you're watching TV, because isn't TV supposed to be like cable type of thing? And it's like splitting fine hairs. I consider it readings, and it's not cheating.
Okay, good. So I can claim it as a book that I read then.
Oh yes. I always have like 2 or 3 books like I'm reading, and at least 1 or 2 of them is an audiobook because I listen to it while I drive all the time.
Now I was talking about movies that have movies based on them. Like Frankenstein obviously has a lot of movies. The Time Machine has a couple, and obviously other one I talked about, the Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, was, like I said, based on Blade Runner was based on that. And what was the other? Oh, Lord of the Flies. There were at least 2 Lord of the Flies movies. How do you feel about when do you watch? I assume that you watch the movies, or watch movies where that are based on the novels or books that you've read.
Yeah, I think it's like super fun to read something and then watch it. I don't obviously think it's as good as the book. That's just my opinion, because they just can't do as much, in the short period of time. But I love the last time I did that was like all of the Gillian Flynn novels. She has like 3 novels. She may have more now, but for a while she hadn't published anything, so she just had 3, and it was Gone Girl, Sharp Objects, and I can't remember the other one, but all 3 of her books got made into movies, so I had to, like, Dark Places, that was the last one. I had to watch all of them. I think it's super interesting, at least especially when they can get like good characters for it. Like Gone Girl had what is her name? Rosamund Pike, I think.
Hmm.
Um,
Sorry, yeah, not familiar with the name.
she's a really good actor. She's just a blonde-headed girl. She was nominated for a Grammy or something. She was nominated. I don't keep up with awards, so she was nominated for something for her role in Gone Girl. But I think what I love more than like watching a book in film form is like watching adaptations or watching like having like clues to it, like Easter eggs, you know, and
Mhm.
like series where they have Easter eggs from like a different book. I just love that stuff a lot. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't really right now.
The how you said you also talk about TV shows, right?
Yeah, we just like yeah, we do it every once in a while. We like don't we have like highlights that we want to like talk about in our podcast, but we don't have like a lot of like we don't follow a strict script is what I'm trying to say. So we just talk about like the shows we're watching and everything. One episode we did Normal People. We read well, my friend Avery read the book and then I or she watched the movie TV shows. I read the book and then we like discussed it and everything and compared them, which was a really fun episode. Normal People is like a book about like legit normal relationships written by an Irish author that I'm blanking on her name, and it was made into a series on HBO, which I think is amazing because when a book gets made into a series, it just is way better. And so it was good. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's cool. The I'm not familiar with Normal People. Is that a more recent show? Is that
Yeah. I think it came out like 2019 or 17 at the latest. Honestly, it's pretty recent. It was kind of popular for a while. I think a lot of people liked it. It's literally just about these two kids in high school, and then they go like it just follows them to like college and everything, and it's just like they're kind of off again in their relationship, but not in a very like normal, dramatic, cheesy kind of teenage way. More in like a watching people change and grow, which is natural because everyone does that in a way that's like, oh, I can relate to this because it's in fact like the name says, normal people.
so would you recommend the books, or would you recommend, or how many was it, one book? I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Oh,
Um
it's one book.
One book. Would you recommend the book, or would you recommend a series?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would recommend the series, um, the like movie series. I think it was just like I think the actors were again nominated for something in it, or at least the main character, like the main guy. I think they did a phenomenal job, and it's. I just feel like because it was so like realistic, like it wasn't like dramatic where they had like powers or like secrets or really anything. It was very realistic that I think it stands up better being watched than read. Like I think the medium is a little bit better.
Hmm. Now, as far as what kind of genre do you generally like?
Um, I think again, I just like fiction or like realistic fiction. I really enjoy fantasy, but I think it can be like very easily like boring to me. Like I'm writing a novel in fantasy, and this is like my first one, but I think like sometimes writing fantasy can get a little too like telly. Have you heard of like show don't tell? When you
Yeah,
ever heard of that? Okay, I
yeah.
think
We explain. We should explain it though to the audience though, so that
yeah, of course. So show don't tell is like this phrase in writing or maybe some other aspects of life too, where but in writing it means like when you're writing and telling a story, you want to show it and not like tell it. You don't want to explain it because you're like your reader's not stupid. They can see it. They want to follow along with the characters. And so I think it's really hard with fantasy, and even like I'm writing my fantasy book, so it's like really hard to um, create this world that's so different from ours and not tell it like overly tell it. You have to like walk this thin line of like and showing a world that doesn't exist. And so I think like writers can easily fall into that.
now when it comes to fantasy, something I noticed is a good writer when you have fantasy, you have to from what I've heard is you have to establish a set of rules for your fantasy. So you can't just have a character that's doing something and then all of a sudden they you had them do one thing at one point in the story, and later on they can do something that breaks that rule simply because you need the plot to advance. You know what I'm saying?
Uh,
Like
okay, keep talking. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, so and I've seen like to give example. Have you ever seen the TV show Lost?
I think I got like, I think I was still in the first season, and then I
Okay.
couldn't watch it anymore.
Oh, one of the complaints that people had was that they would create these rules. They didn't have. I'm sorry, they didn't really have any rules as the show progressed, and so basically, if they needed something to happen in the plot, they would just break the rules that they created earlier and just make it so that something would happen. And it was like they were breaking. They never really established a set of rules for the show for the
Hmm.
because the show is basically a lot of science fiction and fantasy stuff,
Hmm.
and the if you don't stick to those rules, then the person, your audience will basically just, they're intelligent, they're going to see through that and say this is bad writing.
Yes, I think that's like my pet peeve. That is a rule. I have to follow that in my fantasy. Is like even if it's fantasy and like pigs fly and it, you still have to have rules because it could just go haywire and like lose interest. And I will agree that that's what happened in Lost, and that's why I quit watching it. Sorry, Lost, and people that wrote it and everything. Um, but um, I think that's hard to do in fantasy when you have like magic, because in a lot of magic worlds, the magic's like a mystery, and so it's so easy to just be like use magic as a way to solve problems in like novels, and then it like easily has no rules and you could like do anything, and then it just like your readers lose interest. I think you like kind of rob the reader at that
Yeah,
point.
I agree. Yeah, that's and I assume that you're trying to I assume you're trying to keep that from happening when you're writing your story.
Yeah, I actually like had a meeting with like my book coach person the other day, and I like think I legit said like I don't want to rob the reader of their like experience, because in the first draft I know I like did, and it's difficult because I mean when you're writing you it all makes sense in your head, and then someone else reads it and they're like, no, this doesn't make sense, like not even like in a logistic way, but as like a they don't understand the meaning behind like this action or these words and everything. It can get really complicated.
Hmm, that's interesting. I have written some stories and just given them to family and friends, and they usually, I think maybe they're just being nice. Maybe they don't say anything like that to me. So uh, they say, "Oh, it's a good story. It's a good story," and then they don't really elaborate after that. So
Hey, you've done more than I do. I've like the only story my family and friends have read is the one that was published, and I didn't even want them to read that. Um, Everyone else that reads my stuff was like a professor or in my writing group. So,
oh, okay, okay. So talking about TV shows, do you like reality shows?
um, some reality shows, I guess. I when I think of reality shows, I think of like my mind immediately goes up to like Keeping Up with their Kardashians, which I don't watch that. I'm not really a big fan of it. Nothing wrong with their Kardashians. I just have like I'm not going to say ADHD because I've never been diagnosed with that, but my brain just can't sit there and watch it for that long. There are some reality shows I like though.
Would you like to appear in any of them?
um, that's a good question. I think if I had to be like in a reality show, it would be something on like HBO or like something on like Discovery Channel or Animal Channel, where like either like it's a gardening show or I'm like the crocodile hunter, like catching snakes or something. Because when I'm not writing, I am definitely like picking up worms in my backyard. That makes me sound so weird. I don't like go out and do that. I just like well, like the other day I was in my backyard, I found a dead snake, and I was like, oh, look at that, that's interesting. So that makes me sound weird. Oh well, whatever. It's live. It's already said. Um, so yeah, it would definitely be like something on Discovery Channel. Oh no! Oh my gosh, no! This I totally forgot about this show because I watched it at the beginning of COVID. Um, Beginning of COVID, I really didn't like reality shows at all, and I didn't like kind of was anti-reality show. Uh, but then like I was bored and I was unemployed. Like my self respect went down low, so I was like, all right, I'll watch some reality shows on Netflix. You know. And I watched The Circle, and that was a good reality show. I loved it. I thought all the contestants were like amazing, and I loved all of them, and I was following along. I think I still follow a couple of them on Instagram. So I would be on The Circle. It looks like a lot of fun to me, and that's not like an outdoorsy reality show. So
You have to explain that because to be honest, I've only ever watched one reality show, and it was like 15 years ago. I'm not sure what The Circle is. What could you describe that? What that's about?
I think The Circle is super interesting because it's not like other reality shows. It's like I can't remember how many contestants there are, but let's say there's like 10. There's 10 contestants, and they all get to go live in these like very beautifully decorated how little apartments, and they connect through the with the other contestants through a social media platform called The Circle, which I don't think is like real social media platform. It's for the show, and they like have to like choose which one. Like they just communicate through the circles. Just like text basically, and they have to like form friendships, and then they like choose. They have to vote for who to get rid of, and it's kind of like, are you popular? Are you not in this tiny little circle? But you can also lie about who you are. And so like there was like a contestant that was a guy who had used his girlfriend's picture and was like pretending to be his girlfriend, and then there was a girl who was like pretending to be a guy, and then this one girl was like pretending to be a model. And so but some of them were like really honest with who they were, and the ones that were honest, actually I won't say the ones that were honest got farther because some of them lied and got to the top, but it was just like super interesting to watch like a human connection happening behind a screen. Yeah, it was interesting.
This I mean, what's I mean, did you like to see the people get booted out or?
No, I I will say I feel like if the characters came after like the original 10 or 5 people, because they would add people. So like one person got kicked out and then they'd kind of add another person, and I feel like if they weren't part of the original, like you didn't root for them as well, or you didn't think they had a chance. Everyone that came in later always got kicked out. Um and I
Did
don't think it's because of who they were as a people. I think it was just because you were like, oh, I'm already connected to these main characters kind of thing.
that seems to be the premise. Like I said, I might have seen bits and pieces of reality shows through the years. I'd never stick with them though. But is that the common theme for most of them? Is basically that they're just trying to boot everyone someone out until there's like a final person or group.
I think though that's like how Survivor is, but that's how I feel like competitive game shows are. I feel like there are like other reality or not game shows, competitive reality shows. I feel like there are some reality shows like that are just about people's lives, which are the ones I don't find interesting. I never watched Survivor, but I feel like if I sat down and actually gave it a chance, I could get into it. But there are a lot of seasons, and when a show has a lot of seasons, it's very daunting to me.
Yeah, to let you know, the show that I did watch that was a reality show is probably something that's far different. I don't know if you'd be interested in it or not, but it was called Pinks. Came out in the like I said about 15 years ago, and basically what would happen, these people would bring their drags their hot rods, and they would race them on a track, and they would bet who had the faster car, and whoever won the race, they'd do like a few races, so it wasn't just one race. Whoever
Uh-huh.
won the race would win the other person's car. And
Oh.
there was no, it was a process of elimination. But it was just funny to see these people spend like they would spend like thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars on their car, and then they would lose, and then the other person would get the car. And the it felt really realistic. It didn't feel like it was fake at all. So, but then I never got really into the other shows. The one drawback for me when I watched the show is eventually the people that were watching it said they just wanted to see people drag race without the threat of people losing their car, and I was like, well, that's kind of goes against the point of the show that you're
Yeah.
gonna. So they changed this premise, and shortly after that, the show got canceled. I guess a lot of people are like me, who cares about regular drag racing? You can see that anywhere. So
Yeah.
but it was for me it was interesting just to see reactions of the people, especially the people that were like really depressed afterwards. You could tell they were like, it's funny, and sad at the same time, that they were like they just lost so much money and
Oh.
investment. And I mean, I don't mean to laugh at them, but it was just so, like, why would you do that?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I don't know. I am not a risk taker. I could not do that. If I dedicated so much time and money to one thing, I don't think I could risk it all in one race. I like that sounds the risk sounds like something interesting like I would watch, but I'm not like a big car person, so I feel like I'd probably get bored after like
Yeah,
one or two episodes.
I agree. If you're not into cars, it probably would be. But at the same time, if you're someone who's not into cars, but maybe into risk taking, it
Hmm.
might be something that's kind of interesting. There's the debate, the arguing back and forth because there wasn't just like one person and that came in with the cars. It was like a group. So each like one person would have like their car and they'd have like a group that would be working with them to maintain the car. So there's like two groups constantly arguing back and forth, and
Hmm.
so that kind of added to the tension there. But
Yeah, I like the group dynamic. I think adding more people's always going to add more drama to reality shows, and I feel like that's what they're all about is like the drama. They always like play the dramatic music and cut it right at the certain time where they're gonna make everyone be like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen in the next episode? We'll never know until next Monday.
so I'd like to ask if you'd like to participate in maybe a couple of silly questions. And not really silly, but questions I ask on the my YouTube channel. Would you like to partake in some of these?
Yes, I would love that. I love silly questions.
Okay, I'll bring this up here. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. Okay, the question is the one at the bottom of the screen there.
Okay, I'm gonna have to make my screen bigger. Hold on.
It
Okay.
says, I'll read it to you. It says, sunshine, cloudy skies, rain, or snow. So out of the four response, I actually gave a fifth response as well. So basically, 72% of the people said they love sunshine. 7% said they like cloudy skies. 9% for rain, 8% for snow, and for the final option, it was 4% for any other weather condition that they could choose, and they could leave comments as to what they liked.
Hmm. Okay. All of these kind of. I'm like between sunshine, rain, and snow. Am I supposed to pick one? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
okay?
Hold on a second. Before you actually answer, I didn't realize some of the people didn't fully understand what the question was about. I didn't specify. Some people answered the question as if, "What's your favorite kind of weather?" Other
Uh-huh.
people answered that as what their current weather condition was when they read the question. So, like,
Okay.
so what I meant to say was which is your favorite?
Okay. Okay. We're on the same wavelength because I immediately thought which one's my favorite. Um. See, I love sunshine because I'm a big gardener and I like obviously the sun. Summer gives me my garden, gives me like I love spending time out in my garden. But I also love the snow. And I don't know if that's because where I live now we don't have a lot of snow anymore like we used to. But like I also really like to go like to Colorado when it's snowing. Oh, um I don't know. I'm gonna have to go with snow. I love when it snows and we get like mountains of snow, which we never get mountains of snow here, but we did have like a couple of days when like I'm not from Texas, but it was that same storm that blew through Texas where um water like we thought electricity was going to like shut off and everything, and it's just I don't know. The snow's so pretty. I liked hanging out with it and my dogs loved it. So I'm gonna have to go with snow.
Okay, I would have to say I would agree with snow before I moved to where I'm living. I live in a very rural area on a private road that's on a very steep hill that isn't publicly maintained.
Uh-huh.
So whenever it snows, it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can get up this hill, and sometimes I can't.
Hmm.
So it's kind of scary. Um, that's and for that reason only, actually, I would have to say no against the snow. But I
Okay.
would agree with you before I moved to where am right now, because I was one of the few people that love to go out in the drive in the snow. I had a lot of fun driving in it. So
I love driving in snow. I don't know, with like the snow hitting the windshield, maybe there's like this air of danger to it. I don't know. I just love it.
I would have to say probably not definitely not the rain so much. I don't hate the rain. I don't know, maybe a cross between maybe cloudy skies and rain for me right now. And if I was living in a different area, I might choose the snow as well.
Hmm. Not sunshine. That wasn't on your list.
I burn very easily. I have very fair skin, so I'm not a
Oh,
big fan of it. When I walk out in the middle of summer, I usually wear long sleeve shirts a lot just so I don't get burned on my arms. So
yeah, no, I agree. I'm the same way. I have to put like sunscreen on like every 5 minutes. I feel like.
so wait, you said so you don't live in Texas. So where do you live?
So I live in like Northwest Arkansas right now.
Oh, okay. So why are you living there?
Um, so I'm from like Bentonville, Arkansas, which is like in the top little corner of Arkansas. That's where I was just born and raised. And then Fayetteville, Arkansas is like 45-minute drive at the most if you hit like bad traffic, a little down south, and that's where the University of Arkansas is. So I moved down there to go to college, and I've just been living in Fayetteville ever since. I feel like me specifying which town I live and I grew up in doesn't mean anything to people not from the area, because if you came and visit, all the Northwest Arkansas towns just kind of blend together. Uh, but um, but they have completely different feels to it. Bentonville feels like it's way different than Fayetteville if you like maybe live here and can like pick up on the differences.
So what, well, let me ask you, as far as like the towns, are these, I'm because I'm not familiar with them obviously, but
Mhm.
are they large population wise?
They're growing. I When I grew up in Bentonville, it was not that large. It was really boring. Sorry, Bentonville, but it was boring. Now it's like growing, especially Rogers is like another Northwest Arkansas town right in between Bentonville, not right in between Bentonville and Fayetteville, but it's in between Bentonville and Fayetteville. And it's like booming. People are moving here all the time. And so it's not like a giant city, but it is like pretty cool. So Bentonville is going to be more like businessy. They have a little bit more of like classier, more expensive bars and restaurants because it's where Walmart's headquarters are.
Oh,
Um,
really? Really?
yeah,
Is that
yeah,
their main headquarters?
yeah. That's the main headquarters. My mom has worked for Walmart and Sam's Club like her whole life.
Hmm.
Yeah, everyone. The parents either work for Walmart or like you moved here for Walmart to work with a supplier company that works with Walmart. That's why we're just an area that's growing so much is because of Walmart. So Bentonville's where their location is. So like the Waltons, after like they not after I moved in high school, they created this giant museum. It's a beautiful museum. Has a bunch of art in it. They usually have like they have events and stuff, and they always have like a temporary piece or exhibit. They have like a bunch of outdoor like exhibits outside and trails, so it's really cool. Then they built this thing called like H Street Market, which they is another like smaller museum with a bunch of like restaurants, and then there's like a sky bar where you can see like over all of like Bentonville. Um, so and there's amazing chocolate company there that just makes the chocolate there. So it's like more like I don't want to say classy, but like it feels a little bit more classy. Whereas Fayetteville has like more college students because that's where the university is. There's more like bars with deals and just fun, different like bunch of art all over buildings and everything, and it just has more of a funky vibe to it.
So which would you prefer?
Oh, that's a tough question because the Bentonville I grew up in was kind of boring, but now it's a really cool place, and it like I love walking around the Bentonville Square. Um, but I think if I moved back there, I would feel like I was accepting that I was getting older. Even though I'm 25, I just feels like that's a place where adults live that have like their lives put together, and where Fayetteville is more like you can still be young and not know what you're doing in life. And so I think I prefer Fayetteville just because I don't know what I'm doing in life half the time.
Okay. That's cool. So as far as I mean, if someone were to say what was something that's really great about living, what would you tell them? Is there anything in particular?
Oh, our bragging right is that we're like the mountain biking capital of the world.
Oh,
Not,
interesting.
yeah, apparently one of, like, again, the Waltons are the reason a lot of things happen here. But we
When you say
have,
can I stop you for a second?
yeah,
You say the Waltons, you mean the TV show The Waltons? Is that what you're talking about?
no, the Walton family. I'm sorry, the Walton family that started Walmart.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, they still live here. And so they donate a lot of money and like activities to the community, which is super cool. So we have a lot of mountain biking trails everywhere, like all over Northwest Arkansas. And now we have a greenway that connects Bentonville and Fayetteville, which is like 30 miles ish if you wanted to do the whole thing, which you could. I haven't, I want to, but I haven't. So we have a lot of, one of their sons or grandsons or something is really into mountain biking. So they built a lot of trails for the community. And so we're like the mountain biking capital of the world. So everyone comes here to mountain bike, and it's kind of cool.
That's interesting. Is that something you've ever done?
It's something I dabble in. I have done it before, but I'm the the places I've like the trails I've been on are like baby trails because I think it's fun. I think I would do it if I had a better bike. The bike I have is like a used bike that was someone else's used bike. That was like someone else's used bike that I just got for free. And so it's not the best bike and it kind of terrifies me when I see like a big tree trunk coming out in front of me or like a giant rock. If I had a better bike, I think I would be more into it.
Goodness, yeah, yeah. Are there a lot of those? I mean, do you think they would clear those if they're making all these paths?
Well, the paths aren't like cement paths. They like want them to be rocky and stuff because that's like mountain biking and that's cool. And some of them are like a little bit nicer than others where like they're not as rocky. But I mean, yeah, some areas can be a little bit more rough. And so yeah, like I the last trail I did, like honestly, majority of it was fine. It was flat and good and fun. But then there was like this one little section that was rocky, and that's when I was like, this is how I break my two front teeth is right here on this bike.
Now, was there anything anything other special, anything else special that would be people would want to come to the area?
Other than like the art and stuff, we have a lot of rock climbing. If people are into rock climbing, I like to climb. And so it's not in like town. We do have a cool climbing gym in Bentonville, Climb Bentonville, but we don't. And we have Lake Lincoln, which is another place you can climb. But a couple like an hour outside of town, there's Ponca, Jasper, Arkansas. It's like kind of country, and it's like there's a lot of good climbing out there for people and hiking and floating on rivers. Everything. It's the Buffalo National Park is like where people go to have fun outdoors, and it's a lot of fun.
Sounds cool. So I would like to come out there if I had time, just to check it out. I never really even thought of Arkansas. I don't even think I've ever been to Arkansas, so I don't know. I don't even know what the state is like. I just think it's like in the South, and I don't know anything else.
I think that I think that's everyone's interpretation. Like one of my close friends was like, she told me like Arkansas was not on her radar at all until she got accepted into the university, and she was like, oh, okay, I'm going here for school. And I think that's how a lot of people get here. And then they're kind of like, oh, yeah, this place is a lot cooler. Because, I mean, when people think of Arkansas, they think of people that don't wear shoes and, just farm, which, I mean, that is me 90% of the time. I fit that stereotype, whatever. I'm just joking.
Well, since you brought that up, I'd like to ask one of our other silly questions. I'll go ahead and bring that up for you.
Of course.
It's the question was simply, it's at the bottom of the screen there, shoes or barefoot?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question.
Let me read the responses first before you give your answer.
Please.
For the first response was 75%. I love wearing shoes. That's actually 76%. Excuse me. 6% said barefoot. Another 6% said they prefer wearing sandals. 4% said they just often walk around wearing socks only. And 8% said they don't care.
Okay. I feel like this question has layers to me. So if I'm around my house, I'm going to have socks on because my feet get cold and I'm just always going to have socks on. Like, I love just one of the answers is I love wearing shoes. That's just funny to me. So I don't know, but like there are several times where I'm going out to my backyard and or like running onto my back porch and something and I don't have shoes on, or I'm running out to my car and I don't have shoes on. I would never go out in public without shoes on, nor would I go like hiking without shoes on. I do know people that hike without shoes on, which is insane to me, and they're on another level. I could never do that.
Yeah, that seems a lot. I mean, where I live, it's very rural. I mean, I had to choose the first response primarily because of where I live. If I walk outside, I walk on my sidewalk and my driveway. But once I get out there, I live on a private road, like I said before, and it's all gravel, and that would be very painful to try to walk on a gravel road.
Yeah.
Especially when you talk about rock climbing.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that.
I think rock climbing is what's pushing my answer, which is it's going to be I prefer sandals, because when I do go climbing, I you have climbing shoes, but you don't walk around in your climbing shoes. And so you put on sandals when you're not climbing, or there's just a lot of time where you're like sitting down and you're like, oh, I got to get up and get something. You'll just be barefoot. And so I think I'm gonna do sandals. That's my final answer, because you can easily take them off when you need to, and you can easily put them on. And when you get them dirty, they're easy to clean. I feel like that's a very logical answer.
Are you saying that sandals are used in rock climbing? Is that what you said? Did I catch that right?
No, we don't climb in sandals, but like we have our climbing shoes, which are very painful shoes actually. They hurt to wear them and like climb in them. I actually have like a giant blister on my foot from my climbing shoes right now.
Hmm.
But so like, but when you're off the wall and you're not climbing, you don't want to have your shoes on because they're like painful. So you like will put sandals on for a little bit, and it's like the biggest relief is when you can like put your like take your rock climbing shoes off and put your sandals on.
And now you got me curious. Okay. Well, I would like to bring some images up. Of what how would you describe that? Are they just rock climbing shoes?
Yeah, so I don't have any pictures of like my shoes, but if you like Google like rock climbing shoes, are you sharing your screen with just me or like everyone? Yeah,
Everyone's
yeah,
seeing this movie. Okay. Okay.
yeah,
I have seen these before. Okay. They're
yeah.
like really soft, I guess, kind of soft soled shoes or
I I guess kind of. So you see that evolve like right in the middle with the blue and like yeah, you're on it. I think like that's a really good example of one because yeah, they're easily bendable, but they're made of like that black part's rubber, and so it creates a lot of friction on the rock so you can like grab it, but you can just see like the arch in that it's just like an uncomfortable where your toes kind of like are bending a little bit, and it's like bending your foot kind of.
hmm. So they're not really soft then, is what you're saying. I
No.
mean, the material, I
No.
mean, yeah, it's like I look at those and my first thought is like they look like something similar to like ballet slippers. I mean, that's my thought, but they're not like that, is what you're saying.
I feel like they're a more sturdy ballet slipper. I feel like that's a great comparison as ballet slippers.
Okay.
A little
The
bit more sturdy.
but they're not as flexible, I guess. Is that what you're
I
saying?
I mean they have to be. I think they're flexible. The rubber on them is just a little. I think it's rubber. It could be something else, but the rubber on them is just a little thicker because you're scraping them against rock, so you don't want to be able to break them. But you want them to like bend, so you have more like I don't know. You have like easier access against the rock if they like bend. You can hook on
Hmm.
better. That's like a horrible way of describing it. I'm not an expert in rock climbing. I just do it for fun. So
Gotcha. Well, I got to say, the only time I've probably seen this was in the movie, if you've ever seen it, Star Trek V, with William Shatner climbing the side of the rock face. And it wasn't really him, of course.
yeah,
Uh, but that's the only time I saw there. They show a close up of his shoes for a second. He was wearing something similar to these. So
I don't remember that. I feel like I've seen that. I've seen some of them, not all of the Star Wars, but I feel like I've seen that episode or yeah, that movie.
yeah,
I don't remember issues though.
for the just in case you're wondering, it's often considered to be the worst of any Star Trek movie ever made. So
Good to know. My friend is like loves Star Wars. She's my best friend, and she's very into Star Wars. And when the new ones
actually,
came, yeah, she loves it. When the new ones came out, and I like them, but I'm not like really hardcore into them. When the new ones came out, I like went to go see them with her at the midnight premiere. One, I can't stay up till midnight. I work at a coffee shop. Like I will fall asleep because I'm getting up at 5 a.m. And when I saw, like, I fell asleep during the movie in the movie theater and like woke up and it was like still they were still shooting their laser things at people. It was fine. Probably missed something, but
I think you might. I think you got a different series there. You said Star Wars, right? Because I
oh,
said
did I say Star Wars? What did you say?
Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, we got a different series. I think she's definitely She's seen Star Trek, but I definitely thought I heard you say Star Wars. My bad.
That's cool. The yeah the talking about Star Wars. Yeah, so you're talking about the three new movies that are the. I think there's more than three actually. But
Yeah.
yeah, the how did you feel? Like, are you a fan of those? I mean, that's getting into the fantasy area.
Oh, I like them. I'm like they're not my ideal fantasy because I feel like they're more like science fiction kind of thing, which I like more like other types of fantasy, like magical kind of fantasies. like Brandon Sanderson's a perfect example. His Mistborn series, I really like that. So I think they're really good. I think the movies are really well put together. I think if I could stay awake for a movie, I would love them. But I'm horrible at watching movies late at night because I will fall asleep.
Is that like, when you're talking about the movies, are you talking about the newer ones that came out that were produced by Disney, or are you referring to the older ones?
The newer ones. So, I mean, I've seen the older ones, but I'm specifically talking about the old or the newer ones. I think they're really well put together.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting. There
Do
are a
you
lot of
do you think they're not? I'm sorry. You said they
well,
were interesting.
the first two, there were 5 altogether. I saw the first 2, and I thought they were okay. The third one, which was called The Last Jedi,
Hmm.
I thought the story was not really put together very well, and that because of that, I didn't even watch the last 2 that were made. There was a Han Solo movie, the last one, whatever it was called, The
I
Rise of
don't.
Skywalker. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't bother watching it because I was so disappointed with the way the story evolved in the Last Jedi. I was like, I didn't even feel like watching it anymore. So, but
Okay.
the that's there seems to be a toss up between that one movie. That seems to be a dividing point where fans either continue to like it, or like half of them just really despised it. What was going on? I don't despise it because I still think there's some good elements to what was going on. It was just not written very well in some ways, and so it just made me not want to watch anything after that.
Interesting. I think that's interesting. Like I said, I think I'm a little biased at saying it's a good because I'm not crazy Star Wars fan. Um, so I think the people that don't like it are like dedicated and know it and like are super interested, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I thought it was good because
Yeah.
I don't really care as much. So.
Yeah, there are some Star Wars fans out there that I mean I'm like a casual fan, so and I you know and there's some Star Wars fans out there that start quoting things almost like they're reading it from a Bible of some sort, like they know every little thing. And it's like they lose me almost immediately. And those are the ones those are the ones that are pretty much like that have that either they love it or hate it attitude. So yeah, I'm with you. I mean, if it's a good movie, I'll watch it. I just there was like I said, there were good elements. I'm not, but since I'm not a major fan of the series of it, just a casual fan, it's like it just lost interest with me. But it's interesting. Did you see all of them? Did you say?
I didn't watch the Han Solo movie. Is that part of it, or was it just like a spinoff?
It was
I
like
remember it was part of it.
it was like just like a prequel kind of a movie where they just
Yeah.
showed Han Solo, how he met Chewbacca, and I saw people review it, so I know the basic idea, but I didn't actually watch it.
I cannot remember if I watched it or just watched the trailer. I feel like I watched it and I remember not liking it. And the only reason I watched it was because I liked the male actor. I can't remember his name. I'd seen him in a couple other movies and I liked him. And so I was like, okay, he's a good actor. I'll watch it. But I don't think I like, I feel like this was forever ago, but probably wasn't even forever ago. I remember not liking it as much. But I can't tell you why, honestly.
Actually, yeah, some people said that was actually not too bad. Like I said, I didn't see it, so I can't comment. I don't comment on things I don't watch, so that's not fair, obviously. So, but um, the one thing it was kind of hard for me to want to watch was also because Harrison Ford is not playing the part. I'm like, that's Harrison Ford is the only person that, in my opinion, could play the character.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's a little too old now, so since it's supposed to be a prequel from when he was like in his 20s, and he's now like in his 70s, that wouldn't work. So, but it just kind of deterred me from wanting to see it.
Mhm. I'm thinking out of the new ones, you said there was 5?
Yeah, there was
Okay.
the three that were like the main series, and then there was one that was called it was a prequel to the very first movie from 1977. I honestly I don't remember what it's called now, but it was actually they showed how they captured the Death Star plans. Um, Rogue One. It was called Rogue One: A Star Wars story. That's what it was called. So,
I think I remember hearing about Rogue One. I don't know if it's one I watched though. I watched like the first 3 or 2. I'm trying to think back. So I don't know if I watched the Rogue One though. I'm gonna say my opinion is very biased because I'm a dabbler in Star Wars. So
gotcha. Now, a lot of people say that Star Wars is real fantasy. Um, because they have it's just real fantasy mixed in with science fiction. So that's why I brought that up before. I've heard people comment about the Jedi because they dabble with, they're basically space wizards. Um, so how would you feel about referring to that aspect of it?
It's in my head, it's a little bit more of a sci-fi. I mean, it's just my personal opinion. It's a little bit more of a sci-fi. Um, People probably disagree with me on that, but I would say like the Jedi and like the Force is very magicalish, magically magical,
Mhm.
and I think it's more like it's 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 a fantasy element. I mean, it's just a soft magic that's a fantasy element, and so in my mind, because it's out in space and there's spaceships and there's like all this scientific like science fiction, it lands more in science fiction to me. But I would totally agree with that. The Force and like the Jedi's are more of like a soft magic fantasy element. And I mean, like fantasy and science fiction can be like the lines blur so much at times.
In my opinion, I've kind of made statements to people when we're just talking casually that I kind of say that fantasy science fiction is the next step from fantasy in the sense that since we have a better understanding of science, people kind of strayed away from fantasy and they needed to have a more something that seems more realistically based, even though it's not necessarily realistic. They need something that makes it sound like it's more plausible. And so the science fiction aspect of it makes it adding science fiction or the science element to it makes it seem more this makes takes fantasy and makes it more plausible. So like to give an example of I talked about the time machine. Before H.G. Wells wrote his book, people did time travel, but it was more in their mind. Like a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's I can't speak. A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. That was time travel, but it was done through the mind, with Mark
Mhm.
Twain. Um, and after that, as we get more knowledge of science, people they were still doing fantasy, but we're just using science to replace some of those elements or explain those more fantasy like elements. You agree with what I'm saying?
Okay, so you're saying that fantasy is like a little bit more real
Fan,
than science fiction?
fantasy, well, science fiction itself is still fantasy in a sense, but we're just using more science related items to try to explain these fantasy elements. So we're still doing the same things, um, like with time travel. Like I give the example of time travel, but instead of using a more fantasy element to travel through time, you're using something more science based. You're just using a different method in the story to relay that because people are phasing away from fantasy because we have a more better understanding of science. So fantasy in some people's minds would be like, well, that's not going to be real. But if we had a machine that could do that, that seems more plausible. So
Mhm.
it's just a way of explaining the fantasy aspect of it away and making it more science based. So it's still kind of like fantasy, which they're just using something that appears to be more scientifically based to explain the fantasy. So it makes it appear not to be fantasy. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
yes, yes, I see what you're saying now. I understand now, and I agree. I think that like with part of it, I agree that science fiction uses more like science, so people like understand it more. Like oh, what was that movie with and not Inception, but like the space guy and Matthew McConaughey.
Hmm.
Um, I can't remember, but he like goes into space and like it gets super weird, and I didn't like it because it got super weird. But I heard it was based off like actual like real science about like what black holes are supposed to be like and everything, which one just terrified me. So I think I totally agree with you. I think science fiction is more based on science, so maybe people accept it more. I don't know. I don't think people are turning away from fantasy. I think
Well,
fantasy.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that they are. I mean, just some people, but some people would prefer something that is less fantasy. Some people, not all. I mean, there's still
Okay.
people who love fantasy. Sorry, I didn't mean to imply that they aren't. I'm just, with the idea that we have a better understanding of science, they would rather have something scientifically explaining it rather than something that's fantasy based to explain it. That's what I mean.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, no, yeah, you're fine. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think like the more we like gain knowledge about like space and other things, and um, it just creates so many avenues or so many different stories that are going to be so enticing and like pose so many different new questions and everything. And it's going to be super interesting where stories like are several years from now when we know more information about the world and stuff.
and one other thing I'd like to say is like when it comes to science fiction. there really isn't a lot of science in science fiction anyway, when you think about it, because if you were to make a movie that was purely science based, it would be very boring.
Yes, yes, I
um,
agree with you.
it would be people, because if you ever watch scientists, they get excited over things that people, the average person just doesn't really care about.
Yeah,
so, and so that's what the movie would be about, something like, a meteor that's coming close to the Earth, and they'd be excited. Wow, that's cool. And people are like, no, that's not cool. Or
yeah,
if we were to try to get to another planet out of our own solar system, we would be dead by the time we got there. So,
mhm.
that's not you have to change a lot of things around. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's not like when I say science fiction, I don't mean it's like actually based on science because that probably would be boring if I read a whole book based on like photosynthesis or something. But like, I mean, it's like what was oh, what's this guy's name? His name's like Christopher or Chris. He wrote Aragon, I think is what it's called. It's like that dragon book that was like preteens really like it. Never read it, but he's like it was a really popular book. So and he wrote like this new adult book, and it was about like people living in space because like Earth was like I can't remember if it was just like they just were Earth is for wealthy people, I guess. I don't know, but like a lot of people like they were inhabiting different like planets and everything. And so it just kind of like I feel like it just went into like details that were just like over my head or like specifics that like I didn't know, terms I didn't know. And not that it was like based on science, but it was like in this world where we've aged so much that we can go and live in space and like grow plants on different random planets. It's just going to have terms that I wasn't used to. So all that to say, I didn't finish it, but it was like, I think what I did read the first part was like a pretty good, like science fiction kind of book. It was about like aliens and stuff.
okay. I'm not sure what that one is. Sorry. So,
It, it's new. I think it came out like last year.
okay.
Yeah, it's a to sleep in a sea of stars. It's what it's called.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, I got a question for you, and then this is something that you already know because we had discussed this kind of based on fantasy. If you had a useless superpower, what would that be?
um. So I don't know what. I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sometimes your voice gets a little faded there.
Oh,
Like so. Just you sound
sorry.
fine right now. Just to let you know, you're
Okay.
good.
Thanks. If I had a useless superpower, my first like thing I think of is to maybe like be able to draw perfect circles. Um, but if I was like an artist, that wouldn't be useless. That would probably be really important. It also makes me think of that like SpongeBob episode where he can draw like the perfect face and Squidward can't. But I don't know. Oh, I think I'm trying to think of like a power that would be useless. Maybe like to turn like hmm.
So
I think
we.
I would
Oh,
think yeah, what
go
were
ahead.
you saying?
No,
No,
I
you
was
can
just
go
you
first.
said you were talking about the perfect circle. I mean, uh, how would you create? What you mean, like the perfect circle on like a two-dimensional page or a piece of paper or something? Or what do you mean by that?
Like I would just be able to draw like a perfect circle. Like even if I was like chipping away at rock and drawing a circle, it would be like perfect. If it was on the iPad or like with a pen, it would be like the perfect circle, you know?
Okay,
No,
gotcha.
like if I'm even if I just like freehanded it randomly, like in the dust, it'd be perfect. But I feel like if I'm an artist or like an architect, that's not going to be useless. So I'm trying to like I was thinking maybe like I could if I was invisible, but like only when I was alone. Like I could turn myself invisible, which is a superpower, but like only when I was alone. When it didn't matter because I was alone.
That would be yeah. So I guess I mean you wouldn't want to use it when I mean obviously like you said it wouldn't be a useless superpower. I mean it'd be kind of fun to sneak around when people are around. You could see what they're doing. I guess.
Yeah, but if it's useless, I can't. That would be useful if I could like sneak around. I could like rob a bank or something like that. It has to be a useless one, you know, which is being able to be invisible with no one around.
I assume the invisibility feature would be would you have to take your clothes off? So-
I mean, I don't know. I guess they would just go invisible with me. That's what I was thinking.
I think some people have explored the idea of being invisible, and in certain movies I've seen, I can't remember off the top of my any in particulars off the top of my head, but I remember seeing movies where somebody was invisible and they were naked and they came out and they were everyone was staring at them because they couldn't wear their clothes. So that's the first thing I was thinking of. Um,
Oh, I don't think I've seen that. I'm trying to think of like superhero movies where people are invisible, and I can't think of anything. All I'm thinking about is like there was this Disney Channel movie called like Sky High, where they all had powers, and they got like they had to audition when they got to school to be a sidekick or a superhero. And one guy turned into a bouncy ball, and he was a sidekick, obviously, but that would be a pretty useless superpower.
yeah, yeah, a bouncy ball like a just like a ball like for sports like a volleyball or a basketball or something.
Not even that, because I feel like that would be more useful. Like, hey, oh, our ball just like isn't deflated. Okay, here, I'll turn into a volleyball. I feel like that just sounds weird to say, but it was like, at like Walmart, they used to have those like tall like columns with those like rubber balls in it.
Oh, like you could buy for your kids.
Yeah, yeah. It was like in the movie, he turned into like one of those.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So yeah, like a kid's toy.
So it's almost like kind of similar to what you were saying about doing the perfect circle, but that would be I guess maybe the perfect sphere almost kind of.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it would be like the perfect sphere, but a rubber bouncy ball, and like the tennis coach like kicks him in the movie. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've never. How old is that? Is that a? Do you say it was a movie or a TV show? I'm sorry.
It was a movie off Disney Channel. I don't know how old it is. Um, exactly. I can Google it real fast. Sky High, 2005.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've not heard that. I've not seen that one. Is that more for kids? Is it if it's since
I,
it's on Disney?
yeah, it was off like Disney Channel, I think.
Okay, gotcha. So,
Yeah, I don't know why that suddenly. I do know why that came to my mind. It was a tennis ball thing, the bouncy ball.
oh, okay, gotcha. So I do have a question for you. This is another one that we had discussed. So what would be your favorite social media platform to use?
I think. I think I'm trying to word this correctly. I think Instagram would be my favorite social media platform, um, because I know how to use it. I've had it for forever, but I think it can get like boring and like I run out of content. I think my favorite like social media platform would probably be TikTok, but I don't use it as much because it's interesting. It's fun to watch these little videos. I feel like they're never endless, or they are endless. They're funny, and I've tried to make a couple TikToks, and like I said, I'm 25. I'm not that old, but when I got a TikTok, it made me feel like I was like super old, and like Gen Z was like super younger, like so young, because I tried to make a TikTok. I didn't understand how to do it. It was confusing. I got it. A couple of them like I had to like go viral for very stupid things. I don't know how they went viral. Viral-ish. They weren't crazy popular, but
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure how that works either because I have videos on my channel that it's something about the algorithm. Uh, I, YouTube will have a video and I'll have a whole bunch of videos that are basically very similar, and for some reason, one out of every say 25 or 30 will just skyrocket in views, and there's no reason for it, no rhyme or reason. So it might be
yeah,
something similar to that.
the two reasons, like I only had like two videos kind of go viral-ish, and the only reason they went was because of the sound. I know the second one was a sound because it was a very popular sound, and I was watching a movie one time, and the sound came on. I was like, oh, this is where it's from. So I rewinded it, recorded it, and posted it, and everyone was like, oh my gosh. But the first one was like another popular sound that I just used over my dogs and showed a video of my dogs, and it like went viral. But like honestly, the video of my dogs was not that interesting. Like there are way better videos where they're cuter and funnier, and this one just it wasn't. But I don't know. It's like I know TikTok uses more than just the sounds to get on your page or to get on other people's pages, but
You can tell. I can tell. I'm going to tell you something that you'll be able to tell how ignorant I am of TikTok.
Mhm.
Until recently, I didn't know you could actually watch it on a regular browser. So I thought you could only watch it on a smartphone. So
I thought you could only watch it on a smartphone too. This is news to me. You can watch it on your laptop?
yeah, they just go to the website and you'll see everybody's videos there. So, um, I recently was talking to someone and she was showing me her TikTok page, and all of her TikTok videos are right there. You can click on them, and they just it plays just like you're watching on your smartphone. The one thing that was kind of weird is I would play the video, and once it was done, it would just start all over again. So I don't know if it does that on the regular TikTok or not, but that was kind of annoying. So I couldn't tell when the video actually ended.
No, it doesn't do that on the regular one. It goes, or maybe it does. I can't even remember. I feel like I just fly through them too fast, where I'm like, oh, watch it next. Watch it next. Maybe it does restart.
Hmm. But yeah, so then I was surprised. Also, that YouTube is now trying to compete against TikTok. Have you heard about this?
I think you actually told me that about one of our phone calls. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So yeah,
I've never heard of. So
yeah, I don't know how well it's taking off, but apparently like, for those who have not heard about this, you can upload a video to YouTube, and if it matches the same kind of quality that TikTok has, 60 seconds or less, and it uses the same format where it looks like you're using a cell phone, or you actually are using a cell phone, in that long, the horizontal, was it horizontal or vertical? It'd be vertical. Like you're holding it up vertically.
Mhm.
Then they'll try to promote it, and you have to use a hashtag shorts. And some people say have success. Other people are not having success with it. So I don't know if it's really working for them or not. So
I I feel like apps where it's small videos like TikTok and Vine. Vine, I love Vine. Um, uh, I feel like it's all about luck, honestly, getting famous or having a viral video or something. It's just all luck. I was like a big Vine person. Not that I made any Vines. I just it was my favorite app to have and watch. And I feel like TikTok, yeah, it's the same thing, but it has like a different feel to it. I feel like the humor is different. And the app, it's just itself is like completely different.
mm,
Yeah.
unfortunately nowadays, I agree with you what you're saying nowadays. Yeah, but my channels have become popular because mine are started. Well, the first one anyway started shortly after YouTube started. So back then there weren't as many people on YouTube as there are now, so it wasn't flooded as much. So
Yeah.
I think mine became popular because of other reasons, just
Yeah.
because. But if I tried to do the same thing today, I wouldn't get anywhere. It
Yeah.
wouldn't work at all. So because it's been kind of grandfathered in the older way, my channels are still, very popular because of that. So.
Yeah. I would totally agree with you. I think if you either start as like a someone early on that it starts it when it as soon as it opens, or like now it's just luck kind of thing.
Mhm.
Because
So go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there are like Instagram influencers I follow who were like there when Instagram was like first a thing, and now they're like wealthy and famous on Instagram, and they will probably always be because they were just like one of the first people, which is really cool, honestly.
Mhm. Now, you brought up something I'd like to ask you. You said you have dogs?
Yes, I have two Australian Shepherds, Aspen and Bo. We just got Bo like last year. We adopted her. Aspen's 4 and Bo is like 3, so they're not like puppies. I consider them puppies, but but they're not, I guess, scientifically.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm not sure. What were they? Australian Shepherds? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Australian Shepherds. Their fur type is called like blue merles, and so they're like spotted, like they're long-haired dogs, and they're like spotted like brown, gray, and white with like a little bit of brown on them. I feel like it's a horrible description, but yeah.
Here we go.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
So yeah,
Here we go. Bring mine up right there.
yeah. So both my dogs kind of look like that.
Oh, that's pretty neat. That's a really unique. That looks really neat. I've never seen a dog like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's like what I love about Australian Shepherds is that like each one just comes out like completely different. My dog does have her own Instagram, or my dogs do, and I will shamelessly promote it right now. Aspen goes on Instagram. She's cute. She's beautiful. That's it. Yeah.
Are they friendly? Friendly dogs?
So Aspen I've had since she was a puppy, and she's very friendly. Bobo we adopted, and so she's kind of a little bit more timid around people. She like loves me and like the people she's close to. Like once she gets like close to you, she will she will like literally like I'll be typing on my computer and she'll come and she'll dig her nose under my arm and throw my arm like on her back and like demand that I pet her. Like she's she's very she wants attention all the time once she gets to know you. Like if you're a stranger, she's very timid and will probably run away.
That's cool. That's really neat. Now, excuse me. Are they actually like bred in Australia?
So actually, no. A lot of people think that for obvious reasons. Their name is like Australian Shepherd, so people think they're from Australia. But I'm a weird person that I will get obsessed with something and do like a ton of research for it. And so when I was obsessed with Australian Shepherds in like high school and like did all my research for it, they like the earliest account was of Australian Shepherds was like in America, and they were part of like a circus act because they're like super easy to train dogs and they're super smart. And so they were like, some guy had them in a circus and they were like, these are Australian Shepherds. This is like the first record of them. So
That's pretty cool.
I, oh, that one's beautiful. Oh my gosh, look at it. So I think that one's called a red mural. I know like the one right below it, that spotted one below it with the brown spotted one.
right here. Let's see. This one?
I'm like, no, it was the one next to it. Like, no, the other one. Sorry. So yes, that one's called like a red mural, and it's like the opposite. Mine's a blue mural. That one's a red mural, and then like the previous one that you had up, that was a solid black. That one's called a black or brown try. The other one in the middle, that one's called a brown try.
Right here? Oh, right here. Okay.
Yep. Brown try. And then there's like one that's similar to that one, but like black, and that's a black try, I think. Yeah.
Gotcha. And the thing I've noticed is, if your dogs are like this as well, all these pictures, it seems like every dog has different color eyes. Like
yes. Yeah. My dog has like Aspen has like almost white eyes. They're very light. And then Bobo has one blue eye, one brown eye, and then in her brown eye or her blue eye, there's like a spot of brown in it. So they all just like I said, they just all pop out different, varying, which is super cool.
That is cool. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen this dog before. It's pretty neat, and like the wide variety too. It's pretty. When I first thought of when you said Australian, I was thinking of, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Road Warrior with Mel Gibson that came out in the early '80s. He has an Australian dog. The movie was made in Australia, and I first thought it was that dog. So I don't remember what that dog is, but I don't think that's the same dog.
No, I don't. I've never seen that movie, so I don't know. I know there's like an Australian cattle dog, I think. I think that's a thing. I might just be like making this up right now and just like dreamed this in a dream at one point. But I think there's a thing called an Australian cattle dog.
Let's see. Take a look. Let's see. Cattle dog. Let's see what comes up here just for fun. There you go.
But also,
that kind of looks like the dog from the movie that I was talking about. It might be it.
I feel like that dog has a different name. Like I don't know. That's what I feel like I'm having this really weird moment where like I've seen this dog in real life, but like I called it something different. And maybe I was, and my friends were just a blue heeler. That's it. Oh yes.
Blue heeler. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I've always called them. Okay, I'm not crazy. My friends weren't just letting me call a dog by the wrong name.
Yeah, I don't think this might be the dog from the movie. Aside from that, though, I've never seen. It's kind of hard to tell. Actually, might be able to bring it up. Dog from Road Warrior. Let's see what pops up here. For the fun. Yeah. There it is. It's kind of the same.
Yeah. I do agree that's the same, kind of. I don't know what it has. I feel like that picture looks really similar. I don't know what type of dog that is, though.
Yeah, from what I understand, I met someone one time, and she told me she owned one of these, And we were discussing. I said, "Is that the one from the Road Warrior?" And she said, "Oh yeah, you know about that?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said it was that she had to actually bring it over from Australia. I didn't know.
Wow.
So
Um, okay, so that's insane that she had to bring that dog over from Australia. And this is a funny story that I don't know if you might not even find funny at all, but I'm gonna tell it. Is my friend is a grown man and he works for Walmart and has gone through college, and his dad in like high school or college told him that corgis were the queen's dog. Which, yes, that's a fact. We all know the corgis are the queen's dog. So he thought to own a corgi, you had to get like the queen's permission and then like buy it and ship it from England because that's what his dad told him. Like his dad just like straight lied to him and he believed it. And I thought it was hilarious. I still think it's hilarious that like a grown man could believe that.
people believe a lot of weird things. It's funny.
That's true.
Did he get the dog?
No, he went to like a I don't know who she was, but it was like a friend's house for like a get together type of thing, and she had a corgi, and he was like amazed that she had a corgi, and he was like, "How did you get a corgi? How'd you get the queen's approval? Like what?"
That's good.
So yeah, he believed that for years and didn't even know until his friend got a corgi.
That's really funny. Well, I'm gonna say we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, not really. I talked about my podcast, so you can listen to my podcast on like Spotify, Apple Podcast, Overcast. It's called Reading Too Much Into. We post a new episode every month, usually, unless life gets super hectic where we can't. And our Instagram is Reading Too Much Into Podcast. You can look us up there and know when our new podcast is out, like when a new episode is out. So, cool. And of course, my dog's on Instagram, Aspen Goes.
Yes, we check that. Everyone can check that out too. So cool. I appreciate you being on, and maybe we can do this again. And everyone who is watching, thanks for taking the time to leave some comments. There wasn't any questions that were really asked. There's just a lot of people saying hello. So I was keeping an eye on that. So
I just realized that I was in the private chat, so I didn't even see these comments.
It's just mostly people saying hi and hola. How are you today? So.
Well, hello everyone.
Anyway, that's it. And thanks to Shelby for being on. And we'll hang on this after I disconnect. Don't hang up just yet. But thanks for being on. And everyone have a good night.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye.